Hello, this is Paul the Oaken Knight bringing you the next segment of our Normandy 44 short campaign game. The short campaign is composed of the first 7 turns of the main campaign. They don't change anything, they just make it shorter and give you a different list of victory objectives. In the first turn, we saw the Allied paratroopers come down with some mixed results. The Americans were generally okay, but they had one regiment be eliminated in combat in a counterattack by the Germans after they had degraded 2 steps down to a cadre upon landing and had a hard time of it. The rest of them, though, seemed to be okay. Not great, but okay. On the British side, the paratroopers actually did better, and the Germans did try to do a counterattack, except that it did not have the same kind of success that they had on the American side. The attack unit merely retreated away. The landings went fairly well, especially in the British zone, but the Americans at Omaha, as you might guess, had a hard time, and even in terms of game terms, as far as the variation of outcome, it was not the best landings. And where we pick up, we have the soldiers on Omaha Beach, whereas they have landed, they are hemmed in on the beach still and have yet to break through to the extent where they can bring in their reinforcing units. So, with all of that, let us start turn 2, and we'll see how far we get in this segment. It is now turn 2, the first real turn of the game in terms of having all the mechanics kick in. Let's see, it begins with an initial phase. So we've advanced the turn marker. Time to check the weather. Now again, there is some variability in the weather, even though we're not going to allow storms. It still has a wide variety of outcome, but not the devastating outcome that a storm would be. And say, what's devastating about it? Well, the Americans can't bring in any reinforcements from England. That would be very bad at this point. So we just can't allow that. We got to use the optional rule. All right, the initial phase, we determined the weather. Mulberry construction can begin if it's eligible. And basically, to be eligible, we have to have a hex of Omaha Beach that is free of German units and their zones of control. And we do have that. So we can begin construction of the American Mulberry. And to the east, this is the British Mulberry hex. And again, it is likewise free of German units and German zones of control. It too can begin Mulberry construction. Construction takes 5 turns. Basically, when we have the mulberries in place, we'll be able to bring in more artillery points, are generally going to take the form of shots with artillery. Okay, so it's right now we're going to get only 1 point for the British, 1 point for the German. That will double once the mulberry is in place. And remember, each of those is an odds shift on the combat table. These are very important. Especially remember the 18-point rule. If the defender has 10 points, you can't get more than a 1-to-1 on the base odds. You need shifts to be able to do any kind of reasonable attacking. So let's go ahead and get the mulberries on the turn track. It takes 5 turns. So 5 plus 2 is they're going to come in. They will come in the last turn of the scenario, assuming we stop at 7. All right. Determine the weather. Again, special rule 1, 2, 3. It's going to be overcast 2, 4, 5, 6, overcast 3. This is the standard rules for the game. 1, 2, 3. The weather remains at overcast 2. All right. What happens because we have overcast 2? Well, we go over to our happy table here. And we look at the row for overcast 2. So here's overcast 2. That means the Germans would normally get to have 2 improved positions. However, they're not allowed to build improved positions till turn 5. Okay, so this does not come into play. They get 2 supply points. So that's basically, remember we took those 2 artillery shots during the course of the first turn. So we're going to replace those. We took those out of the 7th Army. We're just going to put them back in the 7th Army. Okay, it's really a common pool until Cherbourg is isolated, in which case you account for they have what they have as they can no longer work as a single entity. They are separate, and so the Cherbourg defenders will have to take from the Cherbourg supply, and the 7th Army is everywhere else. All right. We have 1 German armor replacement, So we go over to the turn track, or the general tracking track, and we give them a replacement. And we have an American infantry replacement, so I'm going to put that down. Replacement. And let's see. We have a British infantry replacement. And we're not allowed any aircraft, but we can use the naval units. And we do get supply points, in which case, until those mulberries are active, it's only going to be 1 point. So here's for the American, and here's for the British. All right. Again, on turn 1, there weren't any headquarters on the map. They didn't come until the regular move of turn 1. We didn't have any supply points. Now we have corps headquarters that are on the map and ready. The Americans and the Brits each have 1 point to use as an artillery shift on their attacks. Okay. Weather's been determined. Mulberry construction, we've checked that and we've started construction. Both players receive for supply points. Good. Both players flip over their headquarters that have moved. So here we have a German headquarters that has moved. It now resets. And we're into the German player turn. Remember, the Germans get the top half of the turn. All right, German replacements. We have an armor replacement. I think we're going to hang on to that. I don't even think we have any armor casualties. A lot of crap units died, but that was expected. Their job was to screen to get us to this point. And they did. And they paid for it. German move. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a look, and take a look at doing the German move, turn 2. Yeah. Over by Utah Beach, the name of the game is for the Germans is still to try to hermetically seal these guys, and definitely don't let them get across this river to start pushing towards linking up with Omaha Beach. We basically did some reinforcing around the perimeter. These guys are probably vulnerable. We don't have tanks there yet, so I would anticipate an attack there by the Allies coming up soon. One thing I wanted to point out is that if you look up here, you see this track here and this track here. And basically, those are starting to be turn 2. Each of those releases 1 unit onto the map, which you can place in special hexes like this guy here. If you look, it's got the symbol that matches up, which is the formation symbol for this guy. Here's another hex. I'm putting him here. You get to pick any 1 unit you want each turn, and so that is the unit I picked for this turn. Likewise over here, same deal. You got units you can bring in. This is one of the magic hexes. I'm bringing them in over here. And every turn, starting with turn 2 until they're exhausted, you get to bring in 1 guy. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of their movement and then figure out what to do with Omaha, which is a little on the skinny side. One note, I made a move that you can't do. This guy, this anti-tank gun, is actually a mechanized unit. And mechanized units are prohibited from going into flooded hexes. So no harm, no foul. He really didn't come into play. I'm just going to back him off 1, and I'll use that as the starting point for his move. So I moved the armor unit up here to jump on the paratrooper to give him protection against armor. And the infantry guy just jumped into this fort here. He doesn't move real fast. That's as far as he could get. One other note is that the headquarters move 1 hex this turn, so he retains his ability to be used for fire support with the German artillery. Note that you can have any number of shots, just 1 per combat. So you could be supporting lots of different people with that guy, but you only get to put in 1 artillery point per combat. Okay? But I moved to 1 because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he is in range of this paratrooper who I would just love to kick out of that hex. So we're going to see what we can do about that, see if we can get some odds. I think it's going to be a 3-to-1, which is, I'd say, given the circumstance, I think he should go for it. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move Omaha and see what I can do for them. And by Omaha Beach, I simply was able to cordon off the area. It's kind of vaporous, but we got weak infantry and a little support here. Yeah, 2-point cruddy infantry, -1 quality. The silhouetted units are all 0 quality, so we can use that. But still, this is a very thin line that we've got here for the growing. But on the good news side is that the Americans may not be in a very good position to exploit it, because all 4 of the infantry units that are currently on the map at Omaha have taken a hit. So they're going to have to be a little bit careful as far as what they do. We don't want to knock them down too far. We want to actually start taking replacement points when we can. We had one American show up. I have a feeling we're going to use it. In the Commonwealth zone, we've gone ahead and cordoned off the area. This is exceedingly vaporous. We just have very minimal presence here. On the good news side, we had reinforcements. Panzer came in over here, and I've got 3 of the units here marked as strategic movers. You only have 3 strategic move counters per side. That is a strict limit. So the rest of Panzer over here couldn't make it. They just had to do a normal move. One small risk of doing strategic movement is that you can get air attacked, and there's a bonus for air attackers if you are caught doing strategic movement. Personally, I think those planes are better used doing regular attacks, so I personally don't think it's all that big a risk. I think the aircraft would have better things to do. But remember, because of the weather, there are no aircraft this turn, so we don't have to worry about that at all. Okay. What we did do, though, we want to make sure that they don't get into the con area too fast. So we pulled the good infantry here and moved it over there and gave it armored support. This is the 21st Panzer, part of it. And then, unfortunate, but I think we're going to have to sacrifice this anti-tank gun. He might squirm out, he might not, but I had to have a Zoc there. Again, we got Zoc bonds over here, so the Allies are not going to just be able to walk into con. And by the time they clean these guys out, the rest of Panzer will be up and be in a position to put more strength over there. Let's see, having moved the good infantry out of here, we moved the junk infantry that was here over to there, from here to there, to support these guys. More reinforcements. We had an infantry division reinforcement to pick up the slack over here. One note is that in this game, just as in Fortress Europa, it takes a movement point extra to move out of a Zoc. So when you move out of a Zoc into a clear hex, that's going to cost 2 points, not 1. All right, so let me straighten out the stack I jumbled up, and then we can go ahead and take a look if there's going to be any attacks. And the answer is yes, we're going to do 1 attack, and let me show you how that comes together. We've got an infantry division here, which is going to be the main attack force. That's these 2 guys. That's 6 points. The supporting unit that will be part of the main attack force will be this tank. So that's 6. That's 8 points. Going across the river and not part of the map, so they will be halves. Halved are the paratroopers and further tank support. So that's 6, 7, 8, 3 for this guy, 11. And oh, I take that back. This guy that's because the attack factor's in parentheses, he can't be part of the attack as far as adding into it. So he adds nothing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the defender is a full-strength paratrooper. That's 4 points. He's going to pick up 3 for the terrain. That's 7 points. And there's no way the Germans are going to get 14 points. So it's going to be a 1-to-1 base. They do have tank support, so that's going to give them a shift because the Allies have none. The paratroopers have none. So something against nothing is a shift. And we used a supply point for them. The headquarters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the range. That's good. That's another shift. So we're going to be shooting 3-to-1 on the jumpers. This may be our best and last chance to push them across. Let's see what happens. A 1. A1. Well, it's A1 DR. Okay. So this is going to get interesting. The attacker loses 1 step from his MAF. The defender must either retreat or conduct a determined defense. If the defender retreats, they become disrupted. The attacker may advance. Well, we're going to do a determined defense here, and we're going to get to explore how that works. So, but this result does take effect. So the attacker does lose a step, and it has to come off the main attack force. We'll take it on the infantry. The other guy would be eliminated, so we don't want to do that. So he's going to take his hit, and we conduct a determined defense. So let us talk about determined defense. Okay. When the defender is being kicked out of a hex with a result that calls for him to retreat, he has the option of declaring a determined defense. And what that does, it allows him to roll on a table right here. And you can see it depends on the terrain that the defense is taking in. So in this case, it's bocage, and it's going to be in the other terrain. And you can see a roll of 5 or 6 is needed for it to have some effect. A 1 through 4 would be the retreat happens. So the determined defense was unsuccessful. A 5 would be the defender is successful in holding the hex but takes a loss. 6 is he's successful, but it results in an additional exchange on top of the result that happened on the normal CRT. There are modifiers to the die roll. It can be the troop quality, armor comparison, as well as if the defender expends an ammo point from a headquarters in range and he has ammo points to spend, he can also get an additional +1 on the roll. Now, in addition, when units stacks can have a strong point that's built in them, and so the black dot you see says the strong point is eliminated. Okay, or excuse me, not a strong point, an improved position. Strong points are these things, these counters that are on the map. Improved positions are something you build that looks like this, and it goes on the stack. It's a little, the guys have dug in, basically. And so the result could be, okay, you were successful in the determined defense, but you're not dug in anymore for the next turn. All right. All right, so in this situation, the defender has a +1 morale, troop quality, and the attackers, the main attack force does not have a +1 troop quality unit to match it with. So after declaring the determined defense, the first thing that occurs is that we have to look at the troop quality of the lead unit on the defense. So the defender designates one of his units as the only lead unit, in which case we only have one unit here. It's going to be the paratroopers, and they are a +1 troop quality. So the first thing we do is there's going to be a +1 on the die roll because of the lead defender's troop quality. This is not a comparison, and this is how a defender with good quality can use that to stay in a hex. Remember, on the regular combat results table, all the defender can do is negate a column shift. He cannot achieve a column shift with his own troop quality. But here, his troop quality comes more to the front. Okay, so there's going to be a +1 for troop quality. Then you do an armored rating comparison. Now, the attacker has to have a gray armor factor, which is right there. And if you see, that's a gray 2. Now, the other option would be, if it was red, that would be a tank destroyer, like this guy here. This guy is not going to have any effect on a desperation defense as far as applying his modifier or any modifiers to the die roll. However, this guy will. The Germans have this advantage of having an armor unit, and the Allies do not have any, so that will give them a plus on the die roll, or a minus on the die roll, as it were. So it's going to cancel out the troop quality. The only other thing that we can do is to throw in artillery support, which I really hate to do because we need to be attacking. On the other hand, as I've indicated, I really don't like the idea of losing this hex. On the other hand, there'd still be a 50% chance of failure even if I use up this one and only ammo point that I've got for the Americans. So I think I just roll the dice. I got to hang on to that point, even though I'd love to use it. We have a headquarters right there, so it's within 5. We could do it. I'm just going to leave it to the fates and the gods of war to see what happens. All right, so we're going to roll on the other column of the German defense table. So the Americans have a +1, the Germans get a -1, which is good for them, and we are not spending an artillery point. We rolled a 5. Okay, well, a six would have been better, but that's okay. What it does is that we do not retreat. We hang on to the hex, and we take a hit. Okay, so the Americans have dug in. It was expensive. It was bloody, but they were managing to hang on by their toenails. All right, and they have the next move. I think we're going to have. I think that tank unit that you see just to the northeast is going to be walking over there and saying, "Hi, now you're not going to get any more armor benefit from this." Okay, so that was an important one. All right, the Germans have done with their move. They're done with their move. Let's see. They have no units designated as reserve movement, so we skip reserve movement in combat. Recovery phase, we're going to, anything that's flipped over or has some kind of marker on it, we are going to take off. There's a supply phase. There's no issues with that. So let me see if there's anything I need to do for cleaning up, and we're on to the American turn. So beginning the Allied turn 2, the first thing that occurs is the replacement phase. We've not seen this before, but now we will. So you can take replacements on units that are under strength, that are in enemy zones of control. So for example, this guy here, we are absolutely going to take a replacement there. All right, so we flip him to his good side, and we mark him. And he's going to have some restrictions. He says right on the counter, no combat, can move 1 hex. Basically the 1 hex cannot be into enter Zach. He can only leave Zach's while he is undergoing replacement. But he can be in a Zach when he does it. So he's just going to sit there. And I have already deducted the point off of the paratroopers replacements. Remember, they were generated from the scatter rolls that we got at the beginning of turn 1. Units cannot be absorb more than 1 replacement in a turn, and there's a special rule for the paratroopers. Each paratroop division may only get 1 replacement per turn. So, for example, if this is the 82nd, which it is, I cannot put any more replacements into the 82nd Paras, but I can into the 101st. So I was checking the cadre that was lifted off the map. That was 82nd, so I cannot bring him back. I have 2 full-strength 101st and 1 that's been reduced by 1. They had a good drop. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take another replacement. I know I'm going to regret this, not having his combat for this turn, but let's go ahead and do that. Let's get ready for the next turn by having him full strength. So the 101st is in great shape. 82nd is, they're at roughly half strength, so we need to be pumping replacements into them. Okay, and we will. We still have 2 left. Can at least get the cadre pulled back on the map as a single point unit, or we can write it off. All right, over here with the Omaha Beach. Again, as painful as it's going to be not having one of these units to use this turn, it may limit where we can push. I think we need to start building back up again. So I'm going to take one of these guys from the 1st Infantry, and he's going to absorb a replacement. And the British have 1 point, and I know they have guys that have gotten shot up. Here we go. I may regret this again, but that's a short-term regret. Having the guy built up is going to be good. And I have deducted the replacement point from the chart for them. Note that for infantry, Canadian and British each have their own replacement points for infantry. They share the replacement points for the armor. Okay, so you can only use Commonwealth replacement points for infantry, not British, but you can use British replacement points for Commonwealth armor. All right, that is the replacement phase. We're up to the movement phase. So generally speaking, I think, again, we're going to try to broaden this out. This is an obvious target to get it out of here. We had this moving us forward towards linking up, which is a major objective that has to be met by turn 7, by the end of turn 7. For the first time, we have units coming on the map from Great Britain. Now, the way that works is that when in non-storm turns, this is why storms are so nasty, both the Commonwealth and the American player get to bring in 6 points of units, but no more than 4 points at any one beach. Okay, so for the British who already have linked beaches, this is not a problem. They can use their 6 points to work on bringing in one division. It'll bring in about 2/3 of a division, okay, with 6 points. The Americans, however, are separate, and so they're going to be working on different divisions so that we want to remember how the main attack force things work. We want guys in the same formation so they can work together and attack at full effectiveness, okay? So here's the guy we're bringing in for Utah Beach. Here's the guy, different division, that we're bringing in for Omaha Beach. The guys that are left back here are guys that were the second wave of the invasion that could not come in. They will come in for free. Okay, so we're going to have all those guys plus that guy come in over Omaha Beach. This is a very good thing. The British. So we're bringing in 2 guys here. This would be the British 49th Division, and we have a little bit of leftovers from the second wave of the invasion. So those guys are going to come in as well. All right, we're doing moves. Let me see what the Allies are up to. In taking another look at the situation, I have decided that Utah Beach area needs more armor. So I'm going to delay bringing in that infantry division by 1 turn, and I brought in a 2-step Sherman unit and a 1-step, or a 2-point Sherman unit and a 1-point tank destroyer unit. So that way we're going to have some defense against this German armor and some more attack possibilities because we're going to have more armor support. And remember, we do have some armor casualties that have been taken, and we want to go ahead and make sure we have tanks over here. Okay, now let me take a look at the move. So at Omaha Beach, we're doing some consolidation as well as some limited attacking to try to broaden the beachhead a bit. Out this way, we move the armor from here to here to further reinforce and negate any further armor shifts on a part of the attacker. Between that and bringing the jumpers up to full strength, I think those guys are going to be able to hold out. I think it'll be hard for the Germans to dislodge these guys given the strength that's now there. We move our armor over here to avoid any unfortunate things happening here because he's got a tank. Well, now we got one too. We're doing an attack on these guys. Actually, I think it's going to be bigger odds because we're going to have both of these go in. I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but it should be obvious by this point. Attacking is never mandatory. Unlike Fortress Europa, where attacking was mandatory when you're in Azak, it is not mandatory in this game. So there's no things like soak-off attacks and getting into that sort of thing. Attacking is always optional. I think this is going to adjust upward. I'll take a look at that in a minute. And then reinforcements can't make it here. It would have been great to have a tank over here because the Germans do not have any armor. This guy could have made it, but again, I just can't let these jumpers hang out there without any armor support. The reinforcement here is armor. There's a reinforcing armor unit under here as well. So at least that'll take care of our kind of skinniness with armor, at least to some extent. This works out to a 1-to-1 base odds, and with naval support and using our 1 artillery point that we have. Here's our headquarters within 5. We're going to get another shift. So we go from a 1-to-1 straight up to a 3-to-1. So on the American side, we have a 3-to-1 attack here. as I mentioned earlier, I did do the correction here for bringing in both of these stacks on that little fort defender. I was toying with the idea of attacking the blue guy also, but I'm not going to do that. So we're going to have massive odds on this guy. The blue guy has a friend underneath. That's why I'm not doing that. The only thing, there was a unit here on turn 2. There are a couple more jumpers that come in. These are glider troops. They land right there, and they scattered without any further effect. As with glider troops, they do get a 1 die favorable modifier when they land because it's considered to be, I guess, more controlled landing. They scatter less. Okay, that's what they do. We've got all these guys. They have a base 2-1 with this is the 29th, I think, division. Yeah, the 29th division attacking. They're the MAF. The one that's part of the MAF is going to be the armor. This guy is attacking as outside the MAF main attack force. So, but we had 11 points. Now we have 12. 6 on defense. It's a good thing. That's 2-1 base. We're throwing in, we have armor support. We have quality superiority. That's 2 more shifts. And we're throwing in the ships because I would have loved to have put them here, but you can't put more than 1 in any one attack as far as ships are concerned. All right, so these are the attacks that we're going to do in this kind of a consolidation and continuing to push for the Americans. Let's see what the Commonwealth wishes to do. Going over to the British side, we see I move the guys from here over to there to hit this unsupported strong point, and we should be able to take him out. And unless there's an infantry unit with the strong point or something, they're pretty weak. They don't pick up any terrain bonuses. The armor modifier is nullified, but they don't get any terrain bonuses, and they're usually not very good for morale. So it's not too hard to get good odds on those. These guys pushed out. Again, they just move Zoc to Zoc. There's no Zoc bond here. So they move forward, and they achieve a 4-1 on those guys, these are very weak units that we just threw up there. These guys get even better, 5-1. Over here, let's see. These guys, they're just doing a little cleanup activity, taking care of that. These are 2 big stacks of units. This is the first time we've had we hit the 18-point rule. They're over 18 points of strength attacking, even accounting for having the guys that are not in the main attack force, which is this stack. These guys are the main attack force. They're full strength. The other guys are coming in at half. And the +1 morale, +1 troop quality cannot be applied because they're not part of the main attack force. Okay, they got to be a part of the main attack force to get those benefits. On the other side, it's only a 3-point unit defending in that fortification. He does get 2 points of defensive benefit in the mixed terrain, and the fort itself brings it up to 7 points with 18 effective hitting it. It's 2-1 with the naval bombardment and with artillery support coming from our Juneau headquarters. We used an artillery point. We managed to get it up to a 4-1. Notice that there was a unit here on turn 2. This glider brigade landed, and they're actually part of this attack landing right here. They landed in good shape. They didn't lose anything. They were not scattered. They were good to go from when they hit the ground. Okay, so they're actually able to participate here. We took replacements here to bring this guy, start building this guy back up. And what we haven't seen yet is entrenchments to improve positions. The Allies do get to build their improved positions as well as the Germans. Germans can't start till turn 5, but the Allies can start. To do that, basically the unit can't have any bad things happening. Cannot be scattered, cannot be disrupted, cannot be attacking anything, cannot be taking replacements. So this guy qualifies. We're going to start solidifying the airborne landings for the British by starting to dig in. And you can predict that the next one will be over here. Hopefully those guys are going to be cleared out. And we may even get tanks over there this turn because there is a road connecting. the guys in this attack and those guys. I think that's probably Pegasus Bridge. So, all right, let me go ahead and start doing the attacks. Let's start with this very important 3-1. It's a very important one. It's the best we could do. We wanted to have tanks. We couldn't get them there, but we will have them there next time. So this is going to be a 3-1. A5. Americans are on fire. They're el fuego. A1D1. Okay, so A1D1. A1D1. Each side loses one step. The attacker takes it from the MAF. The defender retreats unless they go try for a determined defense. These are low, well, actually they're not low morale. There's one good unit in there. They could go for determined defense, but they do take the loss. They do take the loss. You know, people pick their own hits in this one. You don't always get to pick your own units that are hit. I think in an exchange, your opponent gets to pick your hit, and it's a way you can start sniping off some of these good units. Well, they're both one-step units. Tell you what, let's lose the crappy one instead of the good one. Okay? He's gone. The attacker. And these guys were paratroopers attacking. They take a precious hit. Nothing to do. Okay, A1D1. Now, the Germans could try to do a determined defense. The odds aren't good, and this is a one-step unit defending. So if we get the one result or the exchange, it's going to go away anyway. So it's really kind of a no-win situation. We have to retreat. Now, retreats are normally 2 hexes. Severe retreats are 4 hexes. If it's just a standard run-of-the-mill retreat, which is what this is, you can just, a friendly unit of equal or greater strength will stop the retreat at 1 hex. The town will stop the retreat. Barrage will stop the retreat. So that's why, using that rule, that's why barrage areas are such a slow grinding affair. They're putting up determined defenses. Even if they blow it, they're only going to go back 1 hex. So it's a very much of a grinding affair rather than a thing where there's a whole lot of movement. Okay, that is taken care of by the retreat rule, limiting the retreat requirement to only 1 hex, unless it's a severe result, limiting it to 1 hex when you're in things like bocage. All right, well, we have a massive attack on this next one, and with a 5, and he's gone, as you would expect. Ba-boom-ba. This guy's gone. Yay. We'll take the advance. Let's see. We'll take the advance. Oh, I see that the tank was a reinforcing unit. A limited advance is that you only get to advance 1 hex into the hex that was vacated. So reinforcing units can only do limited advances, and that's what he did. 1 hex into the hex where the guy was eliminated from. Okay. Now we have a 5-1. We're trying to link these beachheads. We're making some progress here at least. Oh, I forgot to advance these guys. The paratroopers do advance. They do advance when he retreated, and we'll take that. Next, 5-1. 3. A1D1. Each side takes a hit. Well, that is really going to hurt these guys. Got to be from the MAF. I don't want to take armor hits, so this guy's going to go to a cadre. It's the second one of these we've had. So we are going to have to start building up some guys, but we didn't have the replacement points. We used it on the big red one. Okay. So that is now a cadre in this hex, along with 1 good unit. He takes a hit. Let's take the Ost Battalion. These Ruskies fighting for the Germans are not highly motivated. Okay, and there's going to be a 2 hex retreat. This is mixed terrain, not bocage. That does not stop this, so he has to go back too. He's going to go back here. The Navy's used. We get to advance. Here, here. Remember, you don't have to advance into the hex that was abandoned. And actually, we do get to go 2 if we want to. And I think we can do that. It's getting a little tough here, but we are protected by terrain. I'm going to throw that guy up there just to give him a little more strength and armor protection. Okay, getting kind of thin, although we did land the 3rd Regiment of the 29th, so they will be able to have they will be able to have at least one full strength unit, and we are going to have to start building these guys back up. Hopefully we get more infantry replacements. We're getting kind of skinny. Over here. Okay, we're over to the Brits. And their attack on this fortress to actually clean this area out completely. What's a 1? What does a 1 do? Exchange. Of course. So we're going to take that hit. We're going to take that hit. And we're going to advance that direction. Okay. And that's what we're going to do. All right. We got a 4-1 next. Let's take it. 6. D1. Okay. So this guy takes a hit. He's only got 1 hit. He's done. We get to advance 2. Getting kind of lonely here. Do I really want to advance out farther into this? I'm not so sure. They're feeling kind of unsupported coming into the face of Panzerlehr. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. It'd be nice, but I don't think so. What am I going to do? Go out here and say, surround and kill me, please? All right. Let's do the next guys. 5-1. 4. Another D1. And this guy goes to the Nazi happy hunting ground. Off he goes. Okay. Fusiliers. Sounds French. All right. We get our 2 hex advance. 2. Now it looks a little better. I think we'll go here and form the Zoc bond. Okay. And that ought to do it. 6, 7. It's 6, 7, and 8, 9. I think I'm going to put this guy over here too. I know I'm mixing the divisions a little bit, but I think it's necessary. That's wide open terrain, and we do have Panzerlehr right there, along with elements of the 21st. So, we at least want to have some strength if he hits us. Okay? Let's clean up the coast. We got a 4-1. 3. DR. He'll conduct a determined defense. It is in other, or clear. Oh yeah, clear. So he's going to be dead. The only question is he going to take a step with him when he dies? 3, he does not. He goes away. He dies. Low quality units don't do well with determined defense, especially if you're not using artillery points. You got no armor support. Chances are it's not going to work. Okay, one last 4-1. And we'll see what we do. Oops. Get in there. 3. 4-1, 3. Defend or retreat. Okay. Well, guess what? Yeah. Do we want to do a determined defense, or do we just want to call this a day and leave? German gets the next move. And we can can take the hit on the fortification that's going to die anyway. Yes, we'll do a determined defense. Maybe we'll take something with us. No, we will not use an artillery point. So the way this is going to work is we select the strong point as the lead unit. We're going to get the advantage of this column. The lead unit, the strong point, has a quality of 0, so there's going to be no modifier for quality. They did not select a armored unit as the lead unit, so the Allied armor, actually, they have a tank, a gray squared one, not a tank destroyer, a red one. They actually get a modifier for that, so it's a wash. So the last thing is, do the Germans want to throw in an artillery support? And sure, why not? Let's do that. So we're going to throw in a 7th Army artillery support, and we're going to get a +1 on this roll. So let's see what we do. Determined defense. 5 goes to a 6. Okay, there is no improved position, so the dot doesn't do anything. AL means that the attacker takes a step loss and the retreat is canceled. So the end of this is that they did pretty well. They did pretty well. Okay. Allies take a hit. So the Allies take a hit, and the Germans have held tough. But they're going to be boogieing out of here because, or at least the tank destroyer unit, the 88, is going to get out of there because they would end up getting surrounded. It wouldn't end well. But they took a chunk out of the Allies, and now they can fall back some more. All right. The attacks are done for the Allies. Turn 2. Let's see. We don't have any units that we've placed in reserve, so there's no reserve movement in combat. It's the recovery phase. I get to pick up all these utility markers that are out here on the Allied side. There are no units out of supply. I can just tell that. So I'm going to do a cleanup, and then it's going to be the end of turn 2. So at the end of turn 2, we see that the Allies have made a little bit, the Americans have made a little bit of progress linking up these beachheads. These guys, these 101st paratroopers, managed at some cost to push back the defenders that were on the north side of the river, but now they're going to have a river to contend with. They need some better weather that we can start bringing the Air Force into this. We haven't seen any aircraft yet. The Americans, facing very weak resistance, were able to push. The Germans absolutely are going to have to get something bigger there than that unit if they're going to keep the Americans from starting to sweep through. The 29th Infantry Division is very beat up. We do have a new regiment. We will bring that into play, and assuming, and it's not a guarantee they will, but if they get any infantry replacements, they desperately need to start building up the 29th. The 1st Infantry Division took the replacement this time. Okay, the 1st basically didn't do a whole lot. This could be a problem if this doesn't change soon because they're sitting there with a river, but there just wasn't anybody that we could really do anything with. Given the losses, given that the units were stacked up, they weren't able to come in on their first regular move. All the second wave was off, still on the water. So we had to bring them in. Then they had limited movement capability on turn 2. So this is a cascading effect of the relatively poor landing that they suffered on the landing phase. Okay, and over in the British area, looking pretty good. We've actually managed to link up the British and American. We managed to link up the British and the American invasion zone. So at least Omaha is now linked to the British, and now we got to keep on working on getting Utah linked. We pushed out a little bit here. We reinforced it's in the clear, so we are a bit vulnerable to the Panzer-Lehr. But I think the salvation is going to be that there's just not a lot of Germans around here. There's not a lot of Germans around here, and I think that they're going to be required to take up defensive positions rather than worrying about beating up on the Brits. We made more progress cleaning things out. I think there's only this guy left here. This one is going to get beat up. This guy's going to get beat up, and he's going to get beat up and eliminated next turn, no doubt, because the German in there is going to leave. So that will leave a strong point without any support, and that usually doesn't work out very well. This is a particularly strong one. He's a +1 quality, so there won't be any troop quality advantages, and there won't be any armor advantages either, because you don't get that against strong points. But just raw numbers, I think they'll be able to take it out and clean that out. Because these guys held firm, there was no advance. If there was an advance, we would have been able to, say, get the armor across the bridge and support the British paratroopers, but that didn't happen. There was no advance. They couldn't cross. The defenders held firm. We're starting a process of digging in over here with the paratroopers to hang on to what they have. And that concludes turn 2. And with this, I think we're going to call it a wrap for today. So thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, please consider hitting the subscribe button to show up on our subscriber list. So with that, this is Paul the Oaken Knight saying bye-bye.